I bought the cheapest Amazon streaming setup for less than $300.
Okay, so starting off, we have the PC in this streaming setup. And since this is a really cheap Amazon streaming setup, what I have over here is literally one of the cheapest mini PCs you could find on Amazon. This is the Ace Magic Warlord Mini W1. And you guys probably think this thing is really bad for streaming or even gaming. But no, this mini PC could actually run games really well. I've actually used this for a video in the past where I also optimized it. And even before optimizing this PC, it could run about 250 FPS in Fortnite. So we're gonna go ahead and see if this Ace Magic PC could power a cheap Amazon streaming setup. And also, since this is a streaming setup, a mini PC is actually really helpful. Since the size of this PC is definitely pretty small and portable, you guys can honestly bring this with you anywhere. It's also really lightweight since it is a mini PC. But the specs inside of this PC are definitely pretty good for only being $150. You guys heard that right? This PC is literally only $150. So this thing is definitely really cheap. So for the CPU, we have an AMD Ryzen 7 8745HS. And pair with that, the GPU is actually running through Radeon graphics, which might not seem like the best, but once we go ahead and test this thing out for gaming and streaming, you guys can actually see the CPU is actually helping out with this PC really well. Since Fortnite is really CPU based, the Radeon graphics really doesn't matter too much. But yeah, this Ace Magic PC is only $150 on Amazon, so it's a really cheap PC, especially if you guys are trying to start gaming or even streaming. And since it also has 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, as well as 1 terabyte of storage, this PC is actually really good for storing clips, streaming, gaming, all that stuff. Now moving on to the gaming monitor I have paired with the mini PC. What I have here is from like a random brand from Amazon. This is the Gawfolk gaming monitor, and I'm pretty sure this thing could actually go up to 144 hertz. This monitor was only $80, so it's definitely a really cheap gaming monitor. The only problem is it's coming from a company I'm not too sure about, so it might just be a really cheap monitor. But yeah, the materials and the build definitely does not feel too cheap, so it should be still pretty good for this extremely cheap setup. But yeah, here it is. We have the Gawfolk 24-inch gaming monitor, and I'm pretty sure this monitor could actually be overclocked to 180 hertz as well. So if you guys want to go above 144 hertz, you guys could actually do that. But something I noticed with this monitor is there's like little specks of random stuff on the bottom. It might just be like the build quality, because this thing is like coming from like the actual paint or whatnot. So for an $80 monitor, you guys can tell this thing is definitely having its flaws in its build quality. But for being only $80 and having a such nice refresh rate screen that is 1080p, this is definitely pretty good for the setup. And also it's like really thin, so it's not too thick, which is really what cheaper monitors usually have. You guys can see from the back, it's really basic, but honestly, this monitor is just used for its refresh rate. Like, this base is like really slim and might even snap pretty easily. But for $80, this monitor definitely is really good for this setup, since we're on a super cheap budget. Now moving on to the peripherals in this gaming setup, with both the keyboard and the mouse. These two things combined actually cost me only about like $30, so it's really cheap, since I got this about a month ago during like the Amazon Prime Day sales or whatnot. So first, starting off, we have the gaming mouse. You guys can see this thing is like a really small gaming mouse. From the design, you guys can kind of tell this thing is a much cheaper mouse, but I'm pretty sure this mouse definitely should be still pretty good. But for the keyboard, what I have over here is a 60% mechanical gaming keyboard. This is the GM611 wired mechanical keyboard. And this keyboard was only about like $15, so it's really cheap as well. But I took a look at the listings and everything, and it doesn't look too cheap. Like, the build quality should be pretty nice. For being a cheap keyboard as well, I'm pretty sure it has mechanical switches. Usually with cheaper keyboards, I'm pretty sure it's like membrane keyboard that they say it's like a mechanical feel, which is just really bad. But yeah, here it is. We have a $15 60% gaming keyboard. Okay, the build is actually looking pretty nice. The only bad thing about it is that it's like really light. And then obviously inside we have the cables for it. This keyboard is obviously fully plastic. There's like no weight to this thing at all. But being a cheaper keyboard, let's go ahead and see how it even sounds like first. I'm not gonna lie, for $15, this thing actually sounds pretty good. The switches inside of this keyboard are red switches, so obviously will be pretty nice. We're not gonna have to deal with the cheaper blue switches that like cheaper mechanical keyboards usually use. The switches definitely are pretty nice. The stabilizers are pretty good. I'm not sure how fast the keyboard is gonna be. Obviously, it's not gonna be too fast since it's like $15, but yeah, here it is. There's not much about this keyboard since it's a cheaper keyboard. It's pretty basic, but it does sound pretty nice, and it honestly might be a little bit fast. I definitely was pretty surprised at like the stabilizer and stuff. I thought it's gonna be like a lot cheaper. And then moving on, we have a $13 gaming mouse from T-Dagger. From the design of this thing, it kind of looks like a Five Below mouse, but a Five Below mouse would be a lot cheaper. So this thing isn't that cheap, but it's still on a really, really cheaper gaming side. Taking out this mouse and oh, okay. The build quality is definitely a lot better than I thought. You guys can actually see there's like plastic stuff just ripping out of here. Not sure what that is, but the build quality is actually a lot better than I thought. I thought it's gonna be like fully made out of this cheaper plastic, but it has like really nice gripping to it so that it doesn't slip or anything. Like the switches are pressing really silently. Obviously the shape and design aren't like my favorite since this thing kind of just looks like a Booga mouse, but holding on to it and like moving it, it's honestly not too bad. It's not too heavy. This thing is probably like a good 62 grams or something like that. Okay, I take it back. You gotta actually use freaking batteries for this. Okay, wow. I'm gonna go ahead and actually place a battery inside and see how heavy it is afterwards, but I think it might be a lot heavier once I actually place a battery inside. All right, I went ahead and placed the battery inside of this mouse, and yeah, this thing definitely got a lot heavier. Probably like a good 75 grams or so now. Even so, this thing is still a pretty good gaming mouse. It has the two side buttons on the side. We have like these DPI buttons on the top. Scroll wheel is pretty nice, and overall the build just is pretty nice to begin with. For $13, I was definitely expecting it to be a lot cheaper. Like the build quality, I was expecting to be complete garbage, but this thing actually feels really, really solid. But we're gonna go ahead and see how good this thing is since it has like an actual battery inside. Okay, so this is what the entire budget Amazon streaming setup is looking like now. I also did add this $50 mic I found on Amazon as well. It is kind of old, but I also have it on this boom arm, which I believe was only about like $5. So this boom arm was also really, really cheap. But the mic right here is the Fifine K699B, which is kind of like the budget version of the Shure mics, which is like a really, really professional mic, but this one is still a very good mic. You guys can see I have OBS loaded up right now. I'm gonna go ahead and also load up Fortnite and stream in the background and see how well the performance is while we're actually streaming and recording, and see if there's any frame drops or anything since OBS is running through the background. And yeah, if you guys take a look at the max FPS we're actually getting on this mini PC, you guys can see this thing actually runs really, really good. We're pushing close to 300 FPS with literally just Radeon graphics, and this is literally coming from a $150 mini PC. So performance from this thing is definitely really, really good and definitely perfect for streaming. But let's go ahead and load up a stream real quick to see how good the performance is and if it drops any much. So yeah, I'm recording in the background and you guys can see the frames are kind of still the same. Honestly, we're just getting more frame drops now. We're dropping down to about like 230, sometimes even like 100 something, as you guys can see. Once I go ahead and start building, we're actually dropping down to about like 170 FPS. So yeah, running OBS in the background obviously drops the performance from this PC, but for the most part, we're still running at a pretty consistent 180 FPS. Do need to turn up the DPI on this mouse just a little bit. But also with this keyboard, this thing actually isn't even too bad. The PC does have a little bit of input delay. I do notice that. For the most part, the peripherals coming from the streaming setup is definitely really good. Even though it's like a really, really cheap setup, it honestly doesn't even feel too cheap. I really actually like this keyboard. It sounds really, really nice. And also you guys can see the RGB from this keyboard definitely looks really cool. And having OBS in the background, let's go ahead and see the max FPS we can get in an actual game, since literally that's all that matters when you're actually streaming or recording. You guys can see the frames definitely drop a little bit, but we're running about like 150-ish FPS, but there are a decent amount of frame drops. I'm not sure if it's just like the Squid Game lobby or whatnot, but you guys can see it still runs pretty good in an actual game still. Yeah, landing in, I think we're still running a pretty consistent like 130-ish FPS. And actually, sometimes we're getting like 170-ish FPS. Yeah, we're running pretty consistently at about like 170 to 180 FPS. My OBS settings, I have it on all low, so I'm like recording at 1080p. Some of you guys might not actually record at 1080p, so it might be a lot different. But obviously, I am recording at the resolution of the monitor, which is 1080p. But yeah, this setup is definitely not too bad. I can see it definitely works with streaming and recording, but obviously in the long run, you guys will need to upgrade. I'm not sure how good this PC will be if you keep on using it. Like right now, it's just fresh, so it might be like the best. Oh my. 200. Okay, we got a decent amount of frame drops just now. It wasn't anything crazy. Like we dropped down to like 140. Oh crap. Okay, I didn't even see that guy. Like, I didn't even see him. What the heck? The PC is still running at about like 140 FPS. But since I have OBS running in the background recording, before when I actually got into a fight, the frames did drop down to about like 90 FPS. I think that might honestly be pretty common just because you're literally multitasking with streaming on one PC. And it's a pretty cheap PC too. It's nothing too crazy. For the most part, we're actually making most of it really, really easily. So 200. The keyboard and mouse are both also pretty good. It doesn't even feel cheap. Like, it actually doesn't even feel too cheap. What the? Crack? Why is my gun not shooting? But right now, fighting this guy, we're still running about like 110 FPS, so the frames aren't dropping too much. 200. 40. 200. 200. Let's go. Yeah, you guys can see it's actually like running still very, very good. The game is actually still running pretty good. Even fighting this guy, we're getting still like 120 FPS. Hit it. $30. How did I not hold that? I don't know what just happened, but we're still running pretty good right now. I think the network connection on this PC is definitely not the best, mostly because we have OBS running in the background. But I'm pretty sure like all the settings and stuff for OBS I set at pretty good. But yeah, we're still running at about 160 FPS, just idle right now. What the? Cracked? For some reason with this keyboard I'm actually not taking any walls. Literally cannot take anything, bro. Oh my, I can't take anything. I can't take anything from this guy. $30. Crack. Oh, I'm lagging. Wait, I'm the one lagging. Hold up. I'm like, what? Bro, am I lagging that bad? All right, bro, I don't know if OBS was making me lag like that bad, but for the most part, this PC runs pretty good while you're actually recording in the background. You just gotta really mess around with the OBS settings and all that, but let's go, bro. GG's.